Hey, second grade, welcome back. Yesterday, you listened as I read the story Biblioburro, a true story from Colombia. Today, we are going to talk about this book again. This time, we are going to be using our comprehension skill of identifying the author's purpose to help us understand why the author wrote this story. For this activity, you will need your composition notebook. Turn to the next fresh, clean page, and you are going to label it with today's date, January 22nd, 2021. The title of this page will be Author's Purpose, which is our comprehension skill. And be sure to include the book title, Biblioburro. Then you're going to draw this graphic organizer. There are two boxes at the top labeled Clue and a rectangle at the bottom labeled Author's Purpose. So please pause this video in order to copy this onto your own book, and then press play when you're ready to continue. All right, second graders, so I am not going to reread this story as we all listened to it yesterday. And you answered the question that I asked. I asked, what story did Luis read to the children in the village? And most of you got it correct. The answer was The Three Little Pigs. That's right. So that was the answer to your discussion post from yesterday. So today we are going to refresh our memories by looking at the pictures and remembering what the story was about, all while looking for clues to figure out the author's purpose. All right. Remember that the author's purpose is when the author writes to tell information, explain, or describe. All right. So as we go over this book again, I want you to think, do you think this author wrote the book to give us information about something, to explain something to us, or to describe? What do you think was the author's reason for writing this? If you remember, the story starts out with a man who loves books, and his name is Luis. He loves books so much and has so many books that he decides to share his books with people from other villages who do not have access to books of their own. So he creates a plan to have donkeys help carry his books into faraway villages. He calls it the Biblioburro, the donkey library. This picture, you'll remember, shows Luis and his donkeys traveling a far distance to get to the faraway villages. You'll remember that even his donkey wants to stop. He does not want to cross the stream. He would not budge. But finally, he got him to cross. So I'm going to stop and think right now and think about what could be the first clue that the author is giving us. Well, what do we know so far about this story? Second graders, is this story made up or is it true? You remember? This is a true story. It is a real true story from the country of Colombia. So this is not made up. This is a true story. The author is trying to give us information about a person and what he did. So what is Luis doing? Thinking about our first clue, the author is giving us real information about a real person named Luis. And what is Luis doing? What information is the author giving us about Luis? What is he doing with his books? That's right. He's taking his books to faraway villages to share his love of reading. So for clue number 1, I wrote, Luis travels to faraway villages to bring books to people. That is something the author is telling us. He is giving us this information about Luis. All right. Go ahead and pause if you need to write down clue number 1, and then press play when you're ready to move on. At last, Luis and the Biblioburro makes it to the faraway villages, and we see kids running up the hills to get to Luis and see all of the books that he has brought. He sits them down, reads them a story, The Three Little Pigs. He even brings masks for them to wear to really get into the story. So now that he has made it to this village, what does he do? That's right. He shares out the books and reads to the children. So he doesn't just pass out the books and leave. He really takes time to sit down with them and get them excited about reading, because it might be something that they don't know much about. They might not know about books because they live in such a faraway village. So Luis sits down and has story time and reads to them. So not only does he travel long distances to give books to others, but he also reads to them. I think that is an important clue in this story about why the author was writing the story. So we are going to add it to our clue chart. Not only does he deliver books, but he reads books to kids and even brought a special mask for them to wear so that they could participate in the story. So our clue number 2 reads as follows. Luis finally reaches the village. He has masks for children to wear while he reads a story. So we saw in the picture those children were wearing pig masks to go along with the story. This tells me that Luis is really excited about reading and about passing on his love for reading and stories to these children in faraway places. Okay. Remember to press pause and continue when you are ready. All right, so here they are. The story has ended and all the kids are choosing a book that they can borrow, and they head home. And Luis and Alpha and Beto, his donkeys, also head home into the sunset. And here is Luis home at last. And take a look at this photo, second graders. What is Luis doing? After his long travel, he returns home and he is still reading. He must really love books. Now that we have reached the end of our story, it's time for us to ask, what was the author's purpose in writing this story? Remember that this is a true story with a narrator telling the story with a beginning, middle, and end about a real person and events in their life. So this section is what you are going to do on your own. You are going to write down the author's purpose in your own words, thinking, why did the author write this story? You will fill in the author's purpose by asking yourself, what did the author want you to learn from this story? Reminder that an author writes to tell information, explain, or describe. Second graders, what do you think the author's purpose was in this book? Was it to tell you information about someone, to explain something to us, or to describe something to us. What do you think? Which of those three? Was this story to inform, explain, or describe? Well, if you go back and listen to this video, you might hear me say that the author is giving us information about Luis. This is a story about Luis's life. We are getting information about him. So, when you think, what was the author's purpose? Was it to inform, explain, or entertain? What do you think? That's right, it's to inform the reader. The author is teaching us something about someone's life. So I want you to continue and finish this sentence. The author's purpose was to inform the reader about what? What information was the author giving us? Who was the story about? And what did they do? Remember to take a look at your clues above to help you finish the final sentence of the author's purpose. If we have time, we will share out what you wrote for author's purpose on Monday during our morning meeting. I look forward to seeing what you wrote as the author's purpose. Good luck, second graders, and remember to start your sentences with capital letters and end with a period.